Hey, good afternoon, everybody, or good evening, wherever you are. So for the next maybe 30 minutes, I'm going to talk about the book that I've been reading and absorbing since the end of last year. It's called Coaching for Performance, and I just want to kind of position this as a little bit talking about my discovery journey while I was reading this book. So this is John Whitmore, could be almost viewed as the grandfather of coaching. This book, Coaching for Performance, is now in its 5th edition. He launched the GROW model, which of course we all know. And it was really one of the first books on coaching, and certainly one of the first books on coaching in the workplace. What I found interesting was that this is really intended for two audiences. So it's intended for not only coaches, and obviously that's the outtake that I'm reading it for, but it's also intended for leaders, and how leaders of teams and of people can also use coaching in the way that they work. So it is very much aligned with the ICF principles. It's probably not, it probably speaks more, I would think, to the kind of level 1 ACC as opposed to MCC, certainly kind of not MCC. I think Flora's book last week or 2 weeks ago was very much pitched at a maybe a sort of slightly more advanced level. But throughout the book, he looks at coaching as a leadership mindset and behavior. He gives lots of structure around the GROW model and questioning and active listening, but it's the principles and values of coaching that I found very interesting, that we can use in the way that we just have conversations with others. And that probably has been my main takeaway. So the first statement that really caught my eye and imagination is coaching is bigger than coaching. Now, when we are, as students, working through ICF competencies, or the ethics and the structure for conversations, mindset, it's easy to think that coaching is kind of contained within what we are being trained to do in terms of having coaching conversations with clients. But this book has definitely challenged me to think that it's much broader than that. Now, just a little bit of history of me. My whole professional background has been in communication. It's been a big part of everything that I've done. In the latter years of my career, and I've had quite a few years, so for the last 10 or 11 years, I have run and set up a training company here in Kenya. And increasingly, we specialize in leadership development. We do a lot of other things, particularly around behavioral psychology and team dynamics, but it's leadership that is taking up more and more of our work. My dad is 94, and he asked me the other day, he gets a bit muddled, and he said, "Lucy, just remind me again what you do again." And I thought, if I start talking about behavioral psychology and leadership, he'll get more confused. So I just said, quite simply, Dad, I just help people work better with other people. And he went, "Oh, right. Now let me just write that down, and then I can tell that when anybody asks." But this coaching is bigger than coaching. It's shifted my thinking that a coaching mindset encompasses how we should be working together. And I've been asking myself this question, is how can I bring this coaching mindset into the way that I work with my team? And also, how can I bring this coaching mindset in the way that I work with leaders? And in fact, it's been so kind of influential, I guess, for me that we're writing a course at the moment, which is called Changing the Way We Have Conversations. And that is really being inspired by this book. So just a few statements that kind of jumped out, first of all. Moving from the old paradigm of fear to one of trust, and recognizing that humankind is evolving both socially and spiritually. Coaching is the enabler. It reminded me of a conversation I had when I first came to Kenya, and I got talking to the CEO of one of the leading retailers here. And he kind of very patiently listened to my aspirations of what we wanted to do. And he said at the end, actually, he cut me off and he said, well, that sounds all very well. Nice and warm and fuzzy. Good luck. But you have to understand that here, when you're running a business, we need to see our people as more of an overhead and not as an asset. Wow, that has really stayed with me over the last 10 years. And I've been working in an economy that is growing. We have a fast-growing middle class. People have more time, more money, higher aspirations. COVID has really shifted the mindset that there is far more to life than just work and a paycheck. And so organizations are really having to face the music now, because the way that they managed teams before and individuals is just not working. And so coaching has moved on. And I think actually coaching is much, much more, though, than just the enabler in any organization. You know, this very much speaks to the ICF competencies for partnering with the client to create a safe and supportive environment that allows the client to share freely, maintaining a relationship of mutual respect and trust. And I like the breakdown of acknowledging and respecting the client's unique talents, insights, and work in the coaching process, and demonstrating openness and transparency as a way to display vulnerability and build trust with the client. So I've very much seen this as a real evolution over the last 10 years. Another thing that jumped out was coaching as a way of treating people, a way of thinking, and a way of being. Now, of course, he was writing this in the early 1990s. So the way we say this, maybe, that's being talked about now has changing, but it definitely comes much closer to the ICF competencies now. And I think speaks to what I talked about earlier, in that coaching is bigger than coaching. And this is central to the theme of the book around leadership. And I love it when he says, roll on the day when the word coaching disappears from our language altogether, and it is just becomes the way we relate to one another at work and elsewhere too. Now, whilst the professionalism of ICF competencies and practice have developed so much more, it is still, I think, something that we need to really keep in our mind. You know, I'm talking to a team from around the world. I don't know whether you feel that this is part of the everyday that we work with people. Certainly where I live, and the conversations I have with leaders, this varies enormously. And I think we have a very, very long way to go. A third one I wanted to mention is he said about coaching is emotional intelligence in practice, central to the being of any professional coaching and key to being a leader. And I think this obviously is a very powerful theme in his book. And a coaching leader demands the highest qualities of empathy and integrity and balance, as well as willingness in most cases to adopt a fundamentally different approach to employees. If we can translate that to what we're trying to do as coaches, it tells us that we have to have a fundamentally different way of how we work with our clients. And he invites a little exercise here, and I'm going to ask you to do this little exercise with me. So what I'd like is, and we'll use the chat box if you're okay to use that. And what I'd like us to be able to do is to look at, or to think about somebody who, or recall somebody you loved being with when you were younger. Now, this mustn't be a parent. It could be a grandparent, or maybe a teacher, or maybe a role model. And I want to ask you, what did they do that you liked so much? And how did it make you feel? Oops, sorry, let me go onto, no, I'm trying to go onto the chat box now. So if maybe you could just go onto the chat box while I'm trying to open it up. That's odd. Oh, there you go. What did they do that you like so much? How did you feel? Somebody you loved being with when you were younger. Any thoughts? And by all means, if you just want to unmute and tell me, that's all right. Okay, Eileen, safe and listened to. What about those lovely people that we used to know when we were young? And how did she make you feel, Flora, your grandmother? Okay, so there's some real common themes coming out around safety, special, secured, involved, loved, valued. And Whitmore in his organization has posed these questions to people all around the world. And we find that people everywhere has broadly the same response, regardless of country and of culture. The person listened to me, believed in me, challenged, trusted, respect, gave me time, full attention, treated me as an equal. And I felt, these are some of the words that you've said, special, valued, confident, supported, safe, maybe a degree of fun and enthusiasm, but also self-belief. And of course, I think this goes to the heart of the relationship that we are wanting to build with our clients. So the two big words that he talks about, well, he talks about a lot, but these are my real takeout, are awareness and responsibility. So he says, once people become aware of their current mindset and the direct link between mindset and performance, they can choose to change. Awareness really is curative. And this is a big theme. And he says, and I think this is a powerful reminder, not only to us as coaches, but in how we guide the partnership we have with our clients. So when we're looking at awareness, that awareness of self, first of all, why do you do what you do? Learning to recognize human tendencies, personal preferences, innate biases that we all have, in order to consciously choose responses rather than reactions. It's a great reminder that, to me, my own personal preferences of how I tend to communicate with people needs to guide me in my journey as a coach, because perhaps that's the greatest challenge that we all have, our personal preferences and how that leads us towards being the sort of coach that we are. And that's why I think the program at Sunlight with ICF is just so darn challenging at times, because it challenges innately kind of who we are, and really pushes us to build that awareness of self. As coaches, we have to build an awareness of others. This is seeing the person behind the coachee, behind the client, their strengths, their values, their being, their motivation. And it really speaks to the behavior that we have to nurture, which is around being curious, about listening, around partnership. And of course, there's the awareness of the organization. In the work that I do and will kind of increasingly do, I have a sponsor. I have somebody who's paying. I have an ultimate boss who is asking me to coach one of their team. And that might be because of a corrective issue, or it might be just to enhance them. And so it is really important for me to also remember the organization and where this conversation fits. So awareness of that organization is really important. So he asked the question, can a leader be a coach? After all, the leader is the one who holds the paycheck, is the one responsible for the performance management appraisals, perhaps is key to promotion, and perhaps even yields that ultimate threat. So can a leader be a coach? And this has been quite eye-opening, I think, for me as a leader in my own company, and has provoked a lot of thought about the way we can change the conversations we have. As I mentioned, I'm building a course specifically on this, and I want this course not even to talk about coaching. I don't want to label it coaching. I want to label it the way that we're changing our conversations. And, you know, he talks a lot about the kind of the leadership journey. And it was interesting. There's a little story which he talks about. And this goes like this. When I was a little girl, my parents told me what to do and scolded me when I didn't. When I went to school, my teachers told me what to do and caned me if I didn't. Maybe not in every country, but in some countries. When I joined the university, my professor told me what to do and God help me if I didn't. So I did. When I first got my job, my boss told me what to do too. So when I reached a position of some authority, what did I do? Well, I told people what to do because that is what all my role models had done. That is true for the majority of us. We have been brought up on telling, and we're very good at it. Now, I read that little story out to a group of senior leaders here in Kenya recently, and one of them said that they had rarely heard something that so summed up the challenge for them of leadership and performance. And, you know, and I won't go into kind of all his details, but, you know, he talks about how leadership development is all about kind of trying to move from this dictating, telling way of leading and building people, training people, through to persuading, debating, and then perhaps that ultimately empowering them so much that perhaps you kind of go, right, there you go, you've got to do it. But Whitmore encourages us to try and think about coaching lying on a completely different plane altogether. This is not about our kind of traditional ways of management. This is something completely new. This is the chapter when the ICF competencies really come alive. And he talks about the characteristics of a coaching style as partnership and collaboration as opposed to command and control. The ICF defines it as partnering in a thought-provoking and creative process to maximize personal and professional development. But I particularly like this one, which is belief in the capability, resourcefulness, and potential of yourself and others, which allows you to focus on strengths, solutions, and future successes, not weaknesses, problems, or past performance. And this is really working for me now, and shifting the way I'm having or trying to have conversations. Just to give you an example from this week, I work for one of my clients is a big law firm here. They've got a senior lawyer called Charlotte. She's technically brilliant, but to make up to the step up to partner, she's lacking that confidence and self-belief that she is all she needs to be. Now, the partnership, the firm, don't feel that she's there yet, but they're worried that unless she gets there quickly in that kind of confidence, they're not going to be able to promote her, and they might lose her, and they don't want to lose her. So they called me a few days ago and said, Lucy, we need you. Can you do some coaching? Because we need her to build her confidence so that she can talk authoritatively with gravitas to her clients. Roll back 6 months ago, I would have said, oh yes, of course I can help her. I can tell her what she needs to do. But I didn't. So I was pleased with my conversation. So I said, okay, I need to have a chat with her first. It's really important that we have an explorative discussion. And if coaching is going to be the answer that's going to help her, then it needs to come from her. And I need to fully understand and explain to her what the process would be. And so I think my client was kind of slightly taken aback, because this is my biggest client. And in the past, I would have gone, yeah, of course, let's sign up. But I didn't. And I told them, I said that if it doesn't come from her, if this is not what she's wanting, then we might try a different approach, but coaching is not going to be the answer. So I'm going to be speaking to her on Friday, and I said I was not going to send them a cost estimate until I've actually spoken to her. Some principles he talks about, very aligned with our ICF competencies. So self-motivation. See, this is the holy grail for leaders, but the carrot and stick approach cannot work. And for people to truly perform, they must be really self-motivated. And I think this speaks his conversation and his chapter around self-motivation speaks closely to the ethical approach and to us embodying a coaching mindset, particularly in the establishing and maintaining agreements part of it. And throughout the ICF competencies, it needs to be the client that sets the direction. It's their motivation that guides the conversations. And as ICF said, we acknowledge that clients are responsible for their own choices. Second, the belief in potential. Whitmore says that leaders must think of employees, of staff, in terms of their potential and not their past performance. Our beliefs about the capability of others have a direct impact on the coaching outcome. So this again is absolutely central to what we're trying to do. And I think the last part of it is around creating a culture of trust. And this is the section that really inspired me. Whitmore says that in all the coaching for performance workshops that he's run over his career across the world, the average person would say they only express about 40% of their potential. And the single universal internal block, so he says, that obstructs us realizing that unlocked potential is fear. Fear of failure, lack of confidence, self-doubt, lack of self-belief. He talks a lot about psychological safety, and whilst it would seem obvious that leaders should all be about building others' self-belief, which is what coaching does, business leaders or managers very often prefer to hope for, or perhaps even kind of look for, a technical or a structural fix, rather than to adopt a human or psychological kind of support. When he talks about adopting the coaching mindset, building others' self-belief demands that we change the way we think about them, and in do so, release the desire to control them or to maintain their belief in your superior abilities and thus make them dependent. I think this is a powerful statement to think about as coaches. It will probably continue to be my struggle. I need to let go of that need to give the answer, to lead them towards certain outcomes or give my opinion. And it just struck me recently, when one of my team might come and ask me a question about something, I don't know, some client problem that they're having. It's very easy for me to say, okay, great. Well, have we done this? Have we done that? Okay, I suggest we do this. Oh, and actually, why don't I just give them a call? and see if I can get through to them, and we'll fix it now. But all that does is reinforce that belief that I have the answers and they don't have the answers, that they need to be dependent on me as their boss in order to solve their problems for them. And this is hard. It's really hard to let go of that need to provide the answers. So I want to do a little exercise very quickly. So I want you to think of and this is an exercise that I did. And I want for you to think about somebody at work, somebody you work with. And I'm going to challenge you for a minute to think about them with one mindset. And then after a minute, I'm going to give you a different mindset and challenging you to think about them with that mindset, okay? In the exercise, he tells us to try and stay with that mindset for as long as possible, but I don't want to run over time. So think about somebody who you work with, and I want you to think about them with this mindset. I think this person is a problem. Okay, let's change mindset. Same person. Think about with this mindset. I think this person has a problem. Okay, shift our mindset again. I think this person is on a learning journey and is capable, resourceful, and full of potential. Now, I don't know if the magic has passed across to you, but I can tell you that when I really, really thought about this and gave it time, it was just like, oh my gosh, it was transformational for me. I was thinking of somebody in my team who was a problem. And I think this just really, really spoke to me. But, you know, he acknowledges that developing this mindset is really challenging. And we kind of need to move from what may be our naturally skeptical or pessimistic view to a positive and optimistic one. And he gives this nice little analogy of saying, right, okay, just change your glasses. So you've got one little pair of colored lenses. That's your perspective, your own color. Try a different pair. And how would things look then? So I'm just sort of wrapping up, but I just want to come back to these two big words of awareness and responsibility. And I would say that I'm kind of bringing this in almost every single training program we're doing at the moment. In fact, we just got a dedicated slide to this because it's shifting the way we are talking to people. He says, I am able to control only that of which I am aware. That of which I am unaware controls me. Awareness empowers me. And as I start to wrap up, this brings me to my kind of real takeout. This whole book, and I've only just covered very few things in it, I think has had a big impact on the way I'm having conversations with my team and my consultant trainers. It's just changing. I think it's changing the way that I'm starting to train and facilitate. And now I need to really embed that change into the way that I'm coaching. And that is really work in progress for me. In summary, the book is one of the bedrocks of coaching. If any of you who are involved in training as well and trying to sort of marry the two, I would thoroughly recommend it. I'm definitely more aware and intentional for reading it. It's packed with lots of case studies and exercises and dialogues that are really useful. But my real overall kind of takeaway is that coaching is not a thing to learn and do. It's a mindset and a way of being. Coaching goes beyond the formal coaching engagements that we train for at ICF. And the demand for change in business, the way people are working together, has never, ever been stronger. And so everybody, not just coaches, but everybody who interacts with people need to start adopting this coaching mindset and to apply some of these values and principles in the way that we work with others, so that we can start to build people's full potential and really empower and motivate people to love the work that they do. Thank you very much. I will open up to any questions, any comments, any observations.
May I?
Yes, you may.
So, are we going to stop the recording or?
Depends. I think it's interesting to include it in the recording. Depends on Lucy. What do you want to do?
Very happy to keep it going for a bit longer.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And thank you. I really enjoyed it, Lucy. And the way you are seeing and the way you summarized the coaching mindset, and when you say that it's not something that we can learn, is a mindset, and with this new mindset we can work and we can raise people's performance. But first of all, you said that humankind involving it socially and spiritually. And that's so beautiful and powerful, because we are social being, but we are spiritually beings as well. And coaching, you match it to coaching with emotion intelligence in practice. And I'm so grateful for that, because nowadays emotion intelligence is coming in a new pathway, and we are developing this part of human beings, and becoming aware of current mindsets in performance. Because none of us, according to my opinion, we are not, we don't see what our current mindset. We just always see what we are going to see in the future. And when you explain, because I was listening very carefully, with a road model from the moment we are born, or we was born, and until now that we're working, that everybody was teaching us what to do. But with this new mindset that is coaching, we are learning what to do in life, what we really want. And that's a great way that you taught me how to see coaching from now on and on. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And I do, and I know, I'm aware that, you know, our book review is designed to build us as coaches, but Christina kind of encouraged me to talk about it from a personal point of view. And I think if we can practice the coaching mindset in everything, in all the relationships that we do, both at work and at home. I mean, not not kind of coaching every conversation, but still those principles, then I think, you know, perhaps it just gets easier as we, yeah, I think our work and our relationships get stronger as a result. Thanks, Flavia.